Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Julie Hanks. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dana.
You are somebody that is super inspiring to me. You just seem to have your hand in like everything that women need to be thinking about. You're like so cutting edge. You talk about sensuality. You talk about, gender identification. Like I have so many things I want to talk about, and I know you don't have lots of time, so I want to jump in. You have a
Right.
program that I'm like, oh, I need to know more of this. It's called How Do I Claim My Sensuality? So you have me listening. Everyone's turning up the dial on their old school radios that are listening out in the world. You talk a lot about the messages that we get in society
hmm
about our sensuality and how we should approach our bodies and these unspoken messages. Talk about those.
Yeah. So that's the theme in my membership coaching group this month. And we get messages as women that our sensuality and our sexuality are for our partners, not for us.
Mm,
Right. And
mm.
especially in heterosexual relationships, women exist to please men is kind of the message that we get. Our bodies exist to please them, our appearance, all of those kind of things. And so I found in my work that it's really helpful to help women claim, like, no, this is a gift to you. And sensuality and desire is not just about sex, but about what do you want in general for your life. And so many women I've worked with, they don't know because they have sacrificed so much for their relationships, their, caregiving relationships, their love relationships, that they can't even identify what they want
Mm.
in general, let alone what they desire in a sensual or sexual way.
Right. Like, do I want to wear stilettos because I like the way my legs look, or is it because it turns my partner on? Or
Right. Like, what
am
do I
I,
want?
yeah, am I doing self-care and doing a Brazilian wax because I like the way that that looks, or am I doing it because that's what my partner wants? Is that the
Right.
kind of things that you're?
Yeah. And even beyond things that are sexual or sensual, just what do I want in my life? Like what are my goals? What are my dreams? So often women exist to meet the needs of other people. And and so just being able to identify, yeah, like you were saying, what do I like? What feels good to me? What are my dreams? What does sexuality mean to me? Instead of defining it in terms of someone else.
So how would someone start? I mean, I know they should definitely buy your program. I'm not going to give it all for free here, but like, how, if I was understanding that and I was like, preach, Julie, you got me. How would I start? How would I start the process, or what would I be evaluating?
Yeah, I would start with self-definition, like
Mm.
what is your relationship with yourself just in general? Because sexuality and sensuality are one aspect of self.
Mm.
But so many women I've worked with they haven't developed a lot of aspects of self. And so they're all tied together. So the stronger you are in other areas, the more likely you are to claim the sensual part of you. So I would start with kind of where are you in the development of your emotional self and your intellectual self and all the different aspects, and then honing in on the sensual aspect. Just like thinking about your senses. What do you love to see? What is pleasing to your eye? What do you love to hear? What do you love to smell? What are your favorite? Like I love gardenias. I love um, so what do you what do you like to touch? All of the different senses and identifying what you enjoy. And and then the next step is what actually turns you on sexually. But first identify what do you even like?
It sounds like you're saying, hey, we also need to get out of our head and get into our body, right? Because I don't know
Exactly.
what feels good. I don't know if I like to lay on a fur blanket if I'm busy thinking about, did I turn off the oven when I was cooking the
Right.
lasagna, right? So,
Right. Being in your body and experiencing that instead of all of the mental tasks like you mentioned. There's so much going on in women's minds and the mental labor that many women carry. And so being able to turn that off and drop into our bodies and notice what do I enjoy? What feels good to me? What smells good to me?
I imagine that part of your work is then also helping women, which sounds weird, but necessary, give themselves permission to do this, because this is taking away from something you could be giving to others, which is what we often identify as being a
Hmm.
feminine trait. And so
Right.
saying, oh, I not only deserve this, this is an important, necessary part of my own self care that I allow myself to take this time.
Yes, yes. And there's a myth that it will take something away
Hmm.
from your relationships, when my philosophy is the better cared for we are as women, the more we have to offer our relationship. So it's actually additive instead of taking away.
How would women who kind of identify as being more in their masculine energy most of the time, how would they benefit for something like this? Because I imagine there's a big benefit.
Yeah, I think it's fun for women to learn how to play with their masculine energy and their feminine energy, because we all human beings have some of both, right? And so you can play around with, do I want to be strong? Do I want to be the pursuer, or do I want to be more of the receiver, and do I want to be pursued and desired? You can play around with those energies, and you don't have to be stuck in one or the other.
Yeah, because being vulnerable is a strength that we have as women,
Hmm.
and we
Yeah,
don't we get trapped in I have to be one or the other, maybe because our partners haven't given us the space to play. And so maybe
yeah.
also learning how to ask for your needs around that is this
Hmm.
secondary task of mental health that will happen as a result of your program.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
no, I'm jazzed. I think it's great. I'm so impressed that you have a program like that, because I think we definitely need that. There's a lot of confusing messages about who we are, what if we're cool girls, if we own ourselves, and I love it. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so I'm gonna switch
Yeah.
because I stalked your social media, as I do. And there was a couple of quotes that I found very impressive, and so I want to give you some space to talk about, like, where did they come from? How did you develop this? So the first one that I loved was, sexual attraction can't be reduced to simply a choice.
Mm,
You also said, before you ask someone who has come out to you as LGBTQ a follow-up question, swap LGBTQ for heterosexual.
mm.
Tell me about those, because I love them.
Yes, yes. So the the community that I have grown up in and that I practice in is conservative religious community. And so often the assumption is that heterosexuality is the default. And so
Mm.
people will ask questions like, well, you know, when did you know you were gay? But you wouldn't ask a heterosexual, when did you know you were heterosexual? How are you sure? Are you sure you're heterosexual? And so it's helpful to swap those out, because it's you see how ridiculous the questions are that we ask LGBTQ plus people about their sexuality. I mean, we don't even ask questions to heterosexual people. So
No,
it's
we
like,
don't say, like, so what are you doing in your bedroom? But I'm
right,
entitled to know what someone who identifies as LGBTQ. I get to have all these access. It's appropriate for me to ask
right.
questions, and yet we're not offering those up to other people. And we would be offended if somebody labeled us as, "Hey, you like it kinky in the bedroom? I know everything about you now."
Yeah, like what business is it of anyone else's anyway? But there's a privilege in being heterosexual that you don't get asked those questions unless it's really close, someone really close to you where that's the kind of relationship you have. But we feel free just to ask all of these questions, and it's just really hurtful, destructive, and it pushes people away. And so I love to kind of swap that, because it illuminates the privilege and also the inappropriateness of a lot of the questions.
So you said that you are from a conservative religious perspective. How is your position being received by the religion that you identify with? Or do you want to
Uh,
talk about that? Like,
oh, just
we're not trying to
it.
make it
No,
magical.
no, no, no. I feel really strongly about social justice and about equality, and my background is as a social worker, and so It's mixed, right? There are some people that are just very like the Bible says, or and I just think let's expand how we view sexuality and really include everyone. So it's mixed, but a lot of support too.
Great. So because we would maybe assume stereotypically that you'd be like, "What's with you and your crazy ideas, Julie?" But you're
Yeah,
hearing that like people are like, "Yeah, I'm open." It's probably your approach. I mean, you're so genuinely kind about it and just like, "Hey, I have a thought," versus like, "There's something wrong with you and I'm gonna attack you for maybe having fear or not having the same perspective." I
yeah,
think your sales pitch is a really good one, and I wish more of us would sort of open ourselves up to like, hey, I just have a thought. Maybe if you
right,
care about me or I have some influence on you, you might be willing to take it in versus I'm going to attack you.
right, right.
Yeah.
And the quote that you brought up about it being a choice, so often there's been this belief that who we're attracted to, you can choose who you're attracted to. And the research doesn't really bear that out. I mean, we choose who we are in relationships with, but it's not as simple as reducing it to like, well, just choose to be heterosexual, choose to be, it's not, it's a uh, complex kind of thing that you can't be reduced to just choose something.
And
We love who we love.
I think I hear what you're saying also is why should I choose something different than what my heart wants just to make you feel more comfortable?
That's a great way to say it, Dana.
Yeah, because that would make you feel like life made more sense and it fit into the box that you're trying to place me in.
Hmm.
And the only person that will suffer from it is me.
Yeah, yeah,
So what is my trade-off? What's my motivation to do that so that you can feel more comfortable? What do I get out of it?
right, right. Great point.
So you're a songwriter. Tell me about it. Are you going to sing? Because we would love to have you sing on the podcast.
Yeah, so I have these, well, multiple different career paths,
You
but
do. You're like a jack of all trades.
so I started songwriting in my teens, and then I graduated from high school and started college. And so I was performing and writing songs and recording while I was going to school and then graduate school and having a family. And so
Wow.
I've kind of done a lot of things all at once. I don't do a lot of performing these days. I do more speaking and social media, those kind of things, writing books. But yeah, it's a huge part of my life. I grew up in a musical family. My dad's a professional musician and arranger, composer. And so it just was just normal for me. My grandma was a famous singer in the big band era. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Wow. So you came
I
up with
have
a
a couple of
musical
lives.
background and you shifted over to therapy. How did
Well,
that?
they kind of grew together.
Okay.
Yeah, they grew. I was doing both the whole time. I just early on, I led more with my music, and my therapy practice was kind of in the background. And then over time, it's kind of shifted where I'm leading with my therapy, and music is more in the background. So, but they're both there, and I've done that along with creating a family with my husband, and trying to figure out all the relationship challenges that come with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're very easy to talk to. I imagine that your clients feel very supported and very seen by you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I just want everyone to know about you because I'm so impressed. And you have written books. You wrote The Burnout Cure, Assertiveness Guide for Women. You have a podcast. Like, what do you want to tell us about? What are you working on right now?
Ooh, well, I love doing my podcast, Ask Dr. Julie Hanks, and we just hit 1 million downloads. So that was
Wow,
kind of a
fantastic.
huge milestone that I'm quite excited about. I'm working on my third book about partnership in families and marriage and how
Hmm.
to kind of share the load, because I really believe that women will never be fully empowered until there's partnership at home regarding home responsibilities and childcare and those kind of things. So I'm working on that. And
How
then
do
I
we
have,
how do we change that? Because I love that. And there's somebody listening right now who's like, don't let her go past without giving us a tip on how to do that. How do we start approaching that in
Well,
our
I'm writing a book about it, so I can't really say in one sentence, but I think the one thing you can do is start a conversation about the assumptions that you came into your relationship with. So much of what we assume is based on a traditional gender role model. And women have entered the workforce a lot more readily than men have entered the home and taken on responsibility for that. So kind of taking an inventory in your relationship of, is this balanced? And then also recognizing the invisible labor that primarily women do, which is the tracking of things. So even if both partners work full time, women are still doing the bulk of home and family, and men are kind of the helpers, like, well, tell me what to do and I'll help you. So eliminate the word help, because help means it's your responsibility and I'm the helper. So what,
yes,
divide and then have partners be responsible without having one say, oh, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. Because that's part of the work, is remembering what needs to be
distributing.
done. Yeah.
Because you're referring to equality, and so many couples, not because they're being insensitive, it's just like maybe one partner is, well, I handled that big roof replacement that we needed last year, so I'm done for this year, right? Because that took some
Right.
coordination and overseeing for a couple of weeks, and the other partner is, every time we have a doctor's appointment, every time the kid has to go to a birthday party, or every time we need to remember to get a Mother's Day card for your mother, by the way,
Hmm.
right? That
Yeah.
those are things that are just these small drops in the bucket, but are overflowing over time because they're
Right.
not being acknowledged, they're not being recognized, and there's sort of an expectation that based on gender roles or what we saw growing up in our family of origins, that we're just going to fall in line with that, which
Yeah.
if you have an agreement about that, that's fine.
Right. And that's what I say. It, if you, it's not who does what, it's who decides who does what. Is it a conscious decision to divide things a specific way? And is it fair, or is resentment building? Because if resentment is building on one or both of the partners' sides, then it's, your marriage is going to suffer.
Yeah. And I think that we don't always remember, at least for my clients, that I should be having a conversation about what I grew up with in my family of origin and my expectations, number one. And does that still apply to our family that we've created versus the one that I was born into? Right. So if
Right.
I always did, growing up in my family, my mom and I did the inside chores and dad did the outside chores, right? Dad mowed the lawn, we cleaned the
Mhm.
bathroom. Well, what if I am in a relationship with someone that didn't do either of those things, or they had different roles, and I'm frustrated every time they're not mowing the lawn?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I've got this hidden resentment that's building over time. And what you're saying is, we have to be mindful of the fact that we didn't all grow up the same way. And it's
Right.
probably that feeling of disconnect or feeling of frustration is an opportunity for you to gather information about important conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That
Yeah.
hopefully your book will give us more ways to
So
handle it.
yeah, hopefully I can get that written, because it's kind of the hardest thing I've ever done. So
Wow.
dissertation and writing books.
Yeah. Yeah. How long does it take you typically to write a book?
It really depends.
And how much you have
This
going on your
Yeah,
practice and programs and
yeah. And I did my dissertation study on partnership families, and so I've been working on it for quite a while. I just haven't actually put it into a book form, so it's really hard to pin that down. But I need to carve more time out and get it done. So
well,
I'm
I
excited about it.
I appreciate you taking some precious time away from your book writing and your programs. And so, if somebody wants to learn more about you or wants to dive into all the things you have available, what's the best place for them to look for you?
Yeah, drjuliehanks.com or at Dr. Julie Hanks on social media. I'm very active on social media. And so find me there, or yeah, my website, or ask Dr. Julie Hanks podcast
Yeah,
on wherever you get your podcasts.
your podcast is great. I highly endorse it. So,
Oh, thank you.
thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate your time, and you're such an inspiration. And everyone should check out your social media because it's really, really done well. So, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you,
you.
Dana.
Thanks for tuning into the D Spot. Find me, Dr. Dana McNeil, and my guests on social media using the links down below. Subscribe for new episodes weekly and leave a comment letting us know how and if you can relate or what topics you'd like us to cover next. See you next time, and don't forget, go into therapy is cool.